Hey everybody, it's Armin. Today we're going to be assembling another 2.5 motor with cams and valve springs. This one's for a customer named Neal. He's going to be having us do a whole bunch of stuff on his car in this next coming month. So we're going to be assembling his motor now. We've got all the parts in. This motor, I've already taken out the balance shafts and I've cleaned up all of the external stuff, so it doesn't have, I won't be needing to go through and remove all the little plastic bits and stuff like that. Like I said, it's already been done. Now, we will be doing Esslinger valve springs on this motor, as it is a race motor. We'll also be doing an EcoBoost water pump, as the customer requested. Other than that, we have all of the regular parts over here. The only note I really want to make is that this, I don't know if I mentioned it on a previous video, but this motor, as you'll see, has a little boss that sticks out here. If you have this sticking out, you will need to grind it flat or your belt will interfere. I don't see these two very commonly, but if you've seen my other videos, you know I always have a front cover that's already clean and ready to go, as well as an oil pan that is clean and ready to go. So we'll just be using this one. As you see, it's already been flattened out, so this won't be a problem. Now look at that, nice and clean. All right, let's get started. So my wife's going to start assembling those valve spring retainers with the little keepers in them. It just makes the process a lot easier when I get around to that portion. And I also want to show off the water pump for the EcoBoost. So in a little bit, I'll be taking out the other one, and I'll show you the difference. But this one has 8 fins, and I believe the other one only has 5 fins, and they're also just a simple stamped and folded piece of metal. So these allegedly flow a lot better. So as you'll see, compared to the other one, this one has 6 blades, as opposed to the 8 of the other one, and also they're just stamped, sharp-edged, you know. Okay, so we've gotten the motor this far. I guess there's no motor build without some blood. There's my blood. So what we have to do next is we're going to change out all the valve springs. As you saw, my wife already got all of them together with some keepers, because I keep keepers on hand so we can just drop them in. So I'll swap those all out. I'll be using a tool from Company 23. It's available on my website, along with the whole kit. It's all available on my website, arhindrichs.com/store. So I'm going to take a short break, and then we'll dive into these. Alright, so now we're going to take care of getting these valve springs done. We'll get our leak down tester out. We're going to be threading this in. This will rotate over the rotating assembly into the BDC position on the cylinder we're injecting this into, so if it starts shaking, it's totally normal. Also, I usually have this portion of the video muted. Ooh, my fan's blowing on me. I usually have this portion of the video muted because sometimes there's a lot of airflow that will come from a valve. These motors have been sitting for a while, so sometimes a valve will be slightly stuck open by some debris or something. In those cases, if you want to shut them up, you can usually just tap the valve stem with a hammer and a socket, and it'll pop the valve to where it just closes. But let's proceed. Alright, so that's probably the fastest I've ever done valve springs. I'd also like to mention that the Esslinger or any aftermarket valve springs are usually a little more difficult to do because they are a larger diameter. So that makes it a little more difficult. When the tool goes down, sometimes it gets caught. I actually had no hang-ups this time. This was probably the smoothest I've ever had them do. I think the previous video I did, I installed in just shy of 25 minutes. I'll put the timestamp down as to what it took this time. Either way, as you saw, super easy with the Company 23 tool. Obviously, I've got 2 screws on mine. They only come with 1 and then the little cage piece. I've got 2 because obviously it makes my life even easier. I don't even have to switch sides. It's just in and out, knocking them all out. So now that we're done with that, it seems like we had a really good leak down on all of these cylinders. Like they've all been very quiet. None of them with any issues. So we're going to continue on. We're going to move to the installation of cams at this point. So we'll install all the, since these are Esslinger cams, we're going to install the lash caps, and then we're going to install the buckets as they came out in the order. As you saw, you may have seen in the video, I put these aside in the order that they came out. So we'll put those into the calculator, and then we will measure all the cam lobes, put those in the calculator, see what buckets we need, and continue on. Also, it's important to note at this time we will be rotating the crankshaft backwards a little bit because right now cylinder 1's at TDC. Let me demonstrate. Cylinder 1 is definitely at TDC. So we're going to rotate the crank over just a little bit to get that out of the way. Let me do that right now. So I'm just going to grab it by, you can grab it by anything down here pretty much. So I mean, I've got a counterweight. I can just go ahead and rotate it right here. That's probably plenty. Yeah, that's probably a good inch down. And remember, these valves will only lift something maybe half an inch. I believe they're supposed to be 12mm lift, so about half an inch. And we just pushed it down 1 whole inch, so there's no chance of contact in the whole spinning of the cams. Cool. Let's drop these cams in. Okay, we just took all the measurements on these things. These are actually the biggest measurements I think I've taken to date on these, and it came with the smallest bucket I've seen to date. Actually, that came in a motor. We pulled out a 100 bucket out of this, and that means it's really thin compared to the other ones. Normally we see, most of them are going to be in the high 200, mid 400 range, anywhere in that range. So we took all of our measurements. We're going to go through and put this in the calculator, see what we get, replace all the buckets back out, go from there. All right, so we just went through. These were our initial measurements. As you see, we had some pretty high measurements. This one went up to 19 thou on the measurements. And we went ahead and put in the buckets, and like I said, we had a 100 on a bucket, so really small bucket. And then these are the buckets that we needed based on the calculator. Went and got those off a shelf. We're gonna put them in, repeat the process. Okay, we've just finished measuring all of these. We came out with pretty much mostly 10s. Let's see, 2 11s and 2 9s on the exhaust, or 3 9s on the exhaust side. We came out with mostly 8s, 2 7s, and a 6 on the intake side. Sounds great to me. Let's go ahead and get this motor assembled. This front cover has been damaged, so I'm not going to use this one. I'm just going to go pitch it. So I'll just cut up another one. This actually may be one of the nicer cuts I've made. We got these new cutting, let's see. We got these aluminum flappy discs in, and it made the edges nice and smooth, so now it looks, well, it looks much nicer at least. Cool. I'm gonna throw a front main seal and throw this on the engine. Right after I vacuum up my giant mess I made. All right, we're actually going to go ahead and bolt up everything now. We're just going to tighten it all up, and then I will take this off the stand and install the clutch and flywheel assembly. Initially, if you saw one of my previous videos, I prepped this motor just for the next motor build. We took off the filter, we cut it open, we made sure that this thing was a healthy engine. There were no sparkles in the engine, no surprises. But this customer is receiving one of the Mad Fab Works purchase, so we won't be needing this anymore. So we'll be taking that off as well. Alright, we're going to go ahead and stop here and wait until the crank pulley comes in. Oh, I need to put in the water pump pulley. Alright, we're going to go ahead and stop here. I need to wait for the crank pulley to come off the customer's car. This motor's pretty much done. Cool, let's wait for that crank pulley then. Yeah. Alright, Mr. Neal has now dropped his car off with us, and it is somewhere outside over there. But he brought me a new oil pan as well as a new crank pulley, so I will not have to disassemble the motor that I am removing from his car. Also, because the last core crank pulley I have on shelf was in bad condition, it's a good thing he brought one of these. Look at that, brand new from Mazda. And a part number on there to verify as well. So I'm gonna install this guy along with the new crank bolt. He has supplied me his own filter and his own thermostat, so I'll take those off that I have on here. They're essentially unused, and we'll put these on for him. After that, I'll be putting the car. I'll be putting the motor on the ground, installing the clutch assembly, and then it's time to actually start working on the car. Went and cleaned up all these injectors here. 3 of them refused to empty out, so I'm going to see if I can't do them with air pressure. Sometimes they get so congealed that you can't just pressure them out. I mean, the injector cleaner only uses like 42 psi, so if you got some stuff that's really blocked up, 42 psi is not going to blow it out. So I got all these cleaned up. These go into my inventory, as well as 4 of them will go directly onto this customer's motor. But at least now I know they're clean, they're good to go. And that's a good baseline, because if you ever try to start a car up and then you wonder why it won't start, well, it would suck to be the injectors, yeah? So let's get these things installed. Alright, now it's actually time to put this thing on the ground. Alright, I could only find 2 pressure plate bolts, so I'm going to install with just 2 loosely for now, just so it's on there. I'll take the rest when I get the car apart.